I'm an alcoholic. I have the honor and pleasure today of introducing a fine gentleman who just works this program, lives and breathes this program and everything he does. He is the first person in the morning to welcome people that come through the door for the 6:30 meeting. He reaches out to others and makes sure people are doing okay, especially the newcomer, which is so important. And he just practices these principles in all of his affairs. His service work extends not only just in the program, but through every aspect of his life. And he is such a pillar and role model for those in recovery. The men in this program can look to him whenever they need something. And that's just an admirable quality. And I am so grateful to consider him and call him a friend. And with that, I will introduce Bildy.
Hi, I'm Bill, grateful recovered alcoholic and recovered alcoholic. I consider myself a recovered alcoholic because of the hope that I got in reading the uh, the first forward to the book Alcoholics Anonymous, and it begins, "We are 100 men and women, 100 strong, who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body." And then the purpose of this book is to precisely show people how we have recovered. So in that first paragraph, it says that we have recovered, and that's it. And it gave me hope, is what I said, because I'm, not. I was familiar with AA. I was in Al-Anon, Alateen as a kid, and my mother dragged us kids kicking and screaming off to the Alateen group, and I didn't, But you know what? I think that saved me from a disastrous adolescence. You it was bad enough, but it could have been worse. Um, and my father's alcoholism, he was forced into the courts, into the rooms by the courts, and he hated it. And it showed, and he knew he couldn't be drinking, and then but he hated it, and he was miserable for a number of years. And I held on to that, because as my alcoholism was taking off, why the hell would I want to quit if I'm going to be like that? At least this gives me uh, some relief, So why be like that? And I never looked at his back 10 years of sobriety, because then I would have had to address mine. So it gave me the ability to just, no, don't look here, nothing to see, And but his back 10 years, he was happy, joyous, and free. So let me get into my alcoholism, and it's what I was like, what happened, and what I am like today, or what I try to be like. And I hope to I don't mirror I do not mirror all the time that beautiful introduction that Laura gave me. So in fact, I leaned over and Kyle, she doesn't really know me, does it? But but this is it. We you know uh, I started drinking. I don't know when, as child of an alcoholic. We used to rush. I'm one of 8 kids, so I was alone in a family of 10. And so and as we were growing up, my father always, he'd get a case or two, a couple of crates of beer delivered, and we remember we'd rush down to get a bottle of beer from him, and when he'd send us, we'd be doing some work around the house or something, and we'd all want to rush and get it. And when you go and get it, you shake a little bit, and all that foam was coming up, and so you're slurping it up, So that's why I wanted to be the one to get drop the pen, uh, to get the beer, So I don't know, but I do remember as a kid knowing where the liquor cabinet was, and every once in a while, and I didn't do it all the time, but every once in a while, I'd reach in there, grab the schnapps or the Chambord or something nice and sweet, And once in a while I would come out with the rye or the scotch or the gin and, and when I took, ooh, 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 oh, as it spread, I mean, down to my toes, tingle, that was good, And so that's, that's my early introduction to alcohol, and, my first disaster happened when I was 15 years old. This is after a couple of years now, teen and all that, but at a party, we were having an illegal party in the basement of a local shop that we were down. They had the sidewalk entrance to the basement, and we went down there. We all worked on and off of this florist, and so we went down there and had a nice party. And I took. We had cans of 45 malt liquor. And we had acquired a couple of bottles of Southern Comfort, and I drank half that bottle, half that can of Colt 45 and replenished it with Southern Comfort, and chugged that down. I remember doing that twice, and my brother, who was there with me, also said, "No, I did it more than that because I don't know what happened until I was, I had a cop on either arm, and dragging me over to the stairway up onto the sidewalk, and then they trying to get me up those stairs, and then they let me go, and I just dropped onto the ground onto the sidewalk, and this woman passerby says, "Oh my God, is he dead?" And the cop, with disgust dripping from his voice, said, "No, lady, he's just drunk." And that was to be me on and off for the next 25 years, And, I didn't drink all the time. My next disaster wasn't for a number of years later, but, I never, until I got sober and started looking soberly back, as it says, go back in your history. And from that point on, once that blackout hit, once I swore off, and I'm never going to do that again, And the next week, I'm out under the power lines outside Hempstead train station, chugging down beers with the guys. And they say, "Oh, well, I thought you swore it off. You weren't going to do that anymore." "Oh, I meant I wasn't going to, drink Colt 45 and Southern Comfort anymore." And to my knowledge, I never did again. So, I mean, I had them separately, but never together. So, but that would be my life, and then it was a number of years later, that the next disaster befell me, and then even years later, before the first DWI came in, and that was, in the end of 1978, and I was New York. You can't tell from my accent, can you? Long Island. So, but in 1978, Christmas time. Oh, actually, it was wow, 1978 on the 21st of December. I was arrested for drunk driving. And man, what an unreasonable cop, I mean, I wasn't driving. I was too drunk to drive. I pulled over to the side of the road, and and I went to sleep, but I left the keys in the ignition. I left, car running, and so he arrested me, and and they let me go. Just no bond, just had somebody pick me up. My father, who was sober at the time, and he picked me up with my brother, and they brought the car back, and so it was, and then I went to court, and they sentenced me to, they gave me a conditional license, but told me I had to go to these drunk driver courses. And what do they tell me in that? Is to, okay, when you drink, log your drinks, and come in next week, it's not stop drinking or anything. You just, so that's, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, And for, I think, 7 weeks, I did that. Now, that might have only been a 5-week course or something, but, but you like to keep drinking and everything. And then I got a conditional discharge and, was reduced to a violation instead of a misdemeanor. It was, the whole bit. It was like getting a ticket, and so I got away with that one. Right? And then, time marches on and my father died. This was another thing that kept me or gave me an excuse to not look at my drinking. Is my father, as I said, he was a miserable son of a bitch, except for the last 10 years of his 16 years of sobriety. And actually probably more than that too. It's just, he might have only been miserable for a couple of years, but I was able to focus strongly on that. So he died with almost 17 years sober. And he was a car salesman who used to work late, and the meetings that he went to would start at 9 at night, and he'd be locking up the showroom at 9 at night if he was working. So he'd get there late. So they called him the late Mr. Drew. And, but he was always there at the end to talk to newcomers, to give anybody a ride anywhere. They used to say, yeah, he'll take you Manhattan or Montauk, but if you lived the closest to him, and you needed a ride, only had to go a mile or so, you'd be going to Manhattan and Montauk with him. So he would, but he was giving somebody a ride home in July of '81. And there was a car accident. He was broadsided on the service road of the Van Wyck Expressway and Hillside Avenue, and he died a few weeks later from the result of those injuries. And that accident was the same day that Harry Chapin died on the Long Island Expressway. So when my father's accident happened, he knew Harry Chapin, and when we got to the hospital to see him, because he was doing it right early, and he said, "Jay," he says, "at least I made it out better than Harry did." And but the complications set in. He died of pneumonia from the broken ribs. They were worse. The autopsy showed it was a worse accident, worse than the X-rays even showed. So anyway, that AA killed my father. So why the hell would I want to go there? We come up with all sorts of excuses to stop, so we don't have to look at ourselves. So then let's just move this along. I had a job. Actually, it was I had gotten hired in early '78 on the Long Island Railroad, and so I was working on the Long Island Railroad for a number of years then, and moving through and getting along. They overlooked my my absenteeism for most of the part, because or latenesses, because when I was there, I did a good job, I swept trains for the good part of 7 years. In between, I was a carman helper, and so it was a mechanical end, and they abolished those jobs, so I had to go back to the Brougham, and so, but I did a good job, and then went into the training program to become a car repairman and a car inspector, and I did very well in that. I was, and then when I got out and got into the repair of trains, I, did even better, and I did well. I did a good job. I, was able to troubleshoot things and find out what the problem was and get the trains out of the station, and that's all they wanted. And so if I wasn't there one day, they'll overlook it because the other 4 days I'm going to get the trains out of the station, and so I skated so as they overlooked it. And the railroad had an EAP, and and it as they'll stop overlooking things at a certain point. you know. And this one day I came out of a blackout and, you know, I've got a company truck, you know, and it's, you know, a little bit before 7 in the morning and I'm in, uh, I'm in the wrong section of Brooklyn, you know, and I'm supposed to be in a different section of Queens. And, you know, I raced across town and, you know, and I get there and I look at it's just before 7 o'clock. I'm supposed to start work at 7. And I said, man, okay, I made it, you know, because the boss, the foreman, would take the train in and he'd get off at the freight office and then have to walk down. So he never got in before 7:15, you know. And as I turned the truck into the yard, there was his personal car sitting there. He had driven in that day. So he was there and all I did was, you know, I parked the truck, took the keys, dropped them on the desk and checked out sick, you know, and, you know, and what did I do? And, of course, I went out and got drunk, you know, and I came to sometime the next day, you know, and I was in this hovel of a room that I was renting. That was where I was living, you know, making a good salary and had nothing to show for it, you know, and had been evicted a couple of, you know, let's see, I was evicted in 78, no, in 88, and this is 91 now. So I've been bouncing around for the next, you know, couple of years and little thing. And I got this room I'd been in, you know, and it was, you know, and I was paralyzed with fear and shaking and you know, so I don't know how long I had been there for, but, you know, I knew what was going to cure the shakes is a drink, you know, and so, but, you know, what can I do? I had no money, spent everything wherever I was, you know, and it's a Sunday, so, and bars don't open till noon. And plus, you know, I needed to make a phone call. Where are you going to find a phone? You know, if you don't have, yeah, at a bar. So, yeah. Because, you know, they said it was shaking, you know. So I went into a bar that I knew where I still had a tab, you know, and I had the barmaid, you know, I said, yeah, give me a short black Russian and a beer, you know. And I took and I shut down that black Russian and wants to come back up, you know. And I sucked down the beer to try to keep it down. And now the shakes are still, you know, you know, if they try to dial with the shakes, you know, touch tone phone, you get one number and that's it. A rotary phone, you're going to break a finger. So what I did was, let me have another one, you know, and so I had a second round of the same thing, shooter and the beer, and, you know, and the stomach is starting to quiet down a little bit, but, you know, so I said, you know, it's still shaking, but, you know, I said, yeah, let me have another one. And, you know, so she obliged me and now, okay, nice and steady. And yeah, let me have another one. And a moment of clarity. I said, no, hold off on that a minute, you know. And I went over to that phone and actually I called one of my brothers who had been pestering me about, you've got an addictive personality. Maybe if you need any help, you know, if you don't want to go through your EAP, I've talked to my EAP. Well, you know, it's good for our families too. So I gave him a call and asked him to, you know, say, yeah, could you pick me up over at Vinny's? And, you know, I said, I gotta go to a detox, and, you know. Oh, and then I went back and I did have that 4th, you know, and the 5th and the 6th, because it was still a long time to go before I was going to be seeing my brother and him dropping me off to Brunswick Hospital. So, and that was where I'm launching this plan, because in that bar, I was launching the plan of what I was going to do. I was going to go to that detox, and then tomorrow, on Monday, I would call the EAP and tell them I have a problem with alcohol. I'm in this detox over here, and what should I do now? I checked out of work, I was drunk on Friday, and, so I'm in a lot of trouble, and they would tell me, okay, we'll get in touch with you and we'll look at things, and we want you to go away, to a rehab. Oh yeah, whatever you want me to do, because that was my plan, I would go away, I was gonna be in that detox for a week or 5 days, and then I'd be away for 4 weeks in a rehab. And I thought I was gonna go right around the corner to South Oaks Hospital, a psychiatric home. That's what it said on their sign, and that's where they used to send us, and they decided they wanted to send me to Pennsylvania, to Marwood in Shawnee, Pennsylvania. So well, whatever you want to do, and that's what I'll do. I will do that. And so because I had to save this job, and but my plan was, to get all that sick pay when I get out. I'm going to get 5 weeks pay, plus the check that I didn't get, so there's going to be 6 weeks pay sitting there for me, and this is going to be great. I'll be able to straighten out the mess my bills were in. I get an apartment, get something nice, and quietly, I'll be up to the bar bill, but do it quietly and stay away from that other crap. That's it. I gotta, stay. So, and that's what I was doing. And then, in this detox, they had several copies of the book Alcoholics Anonymous. So, okay, let me, I pulled it down and I went to the index and started looking at it and was reading the chapter, reading what, and chapter 2, there is a solution. So, let me just go to that and see what the solution is, and I can, forget to get with everything. And what did that tell me? I had to read the rest of the book. So anyway, I didn't do it yet, So then they came down, they picked me up on to take me to this rehab, and we stopped in Teaneck, New Jersey, to pick up another client who was also going along the way, because they had sent a car from Pennsylvania with there was a couple of recovering alcoholics, it turns out, in there, and they were they came to pick me up, and they picked up this other person in Teaneck, and then we got on Interstate 80 in Teaneck, New Jersey, where in each direction you have 8 lanes of traffic. There are 4 express lanes, and there's with a curb, a low curb, and then 4 locals. And we're in the local. We're in the 3rd lane from the right, so in the second. And there was a truck in front of us, and we're up at highway speed, and it was carrying a load of wooden pallets. Something happened where he zigged and zagged, and the pallets fell off. And at this point, what I'm doing is I'm sitting right behind the driver, and I'm thinking consciously about my father and his later years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I can distinctly hear him. If I was sober enough, I would go to his anniversaries each November. And if I got, but I can remember the ones that I was there, where he had said, that he hated it to begin with, and he was miserable, and he says, and what he had finally heard, what they had been telling him all along, his sponsor and the people in his group, and were saying, Jim, you don't have to like this. You just have to accept it. Put these steps in your life the best you can on a daily basis and move on. And that was where I was when this truck in front of us lost its load. And I was a driver before starting the railroad, and I drove on and I had been in instances similar to this, and where that adrenaline pump goes, and but that heart races and all that. when this happened, with what my mind was, as clear as a bell, it was, everything's gonna be all right. And we went through that chaotic seat without anything. There were cars going either way, and I knew it was gonna be all right. I had the peace and serenity I tried to find by drowning my sorrows and my problems and everything. I found it in that moment. And I knew at that point that my way had never worked. I better try some other way. So the attitude I had when I left that detox in that car, and the attitude I arrived at the front door of that rehab, from the detox to the rehab, had changed completely. And I knew I better go in and listen. I better find out. And one thing that I know that they stressed was that didn't matter what rehab I was in, where I was or anything, if I was, I'd learn a lot about the disease of alcoholism. Hopefully I'd learn a lot about myself, but if I was going to recover from the disease of alcoholism and not be cured, recover, I was going to do it in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, where people are interested in living in a solution instead of drowning in a problem. And I've carried that with me ever since. And then what is it like today? That began my recovery. And in the years that since that a lot's happened. I got back to work, and where this is, quiet, confidential, and everything like that. I got back, and everybody knew where I'd been, and which was understandable because whenever anybody went away, we all knew what was going on. So it wasn't. But then, starting to put this program into my life, it gets difficult. But I did not have a bad first year, like I hear some, or a bad second year. I did not, I was fortunate. My father had those years for me. And that message that he finally heard after a number of years of, accept it. Don't have to like it, accept it. Put just the steps into my life the best I can on a daily basis and move on. Is really, something that I needed to do, and I tried doing it. It's a simple program, but I'm more important than that. So a lot of times, well, that doesn't, and every time I say, oh, that doesn't apply to me, I don't have to do that. Something would happen where, my sponsor would say, have you done it? No, that's no, sit down, let's do it. And so I had a sponsor, and then I got another sponsor, and and then got another sponsor. The first two had died, so it was rough finding a third one. But it was. I ran into a lot of people who knew my father. That was, he was well known in the region, in AA, and so I got a lot of help from them. And the one of them was an old guy who had been one of the Alateen sponsors. Him and his wife, she was in Al-Anon, did a bit where they had the Alateen meetings, and I was a little older now. I was, but my younger brothers were going, so I would be giving them rides up there, picking them up, and picking up some other kids in the, and taking them and dropping them off, and just, but So Jack Bopp he was a twin. He had an identical twin, who was also sober many years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And these two were identical, but they were so different, and and I first met his brother, his twin brother, while I was riding to work on the Long Island Railroad. I'm riding into work, and I see this guy in this loud jacket, and with that the pants to match. I mean, and I looked up. I said, "Jack." He said, "No, I'm his better looking brother." And it was Alexander Bopp. And but they were so instrumental in helping me get sober, and it was 9.5 years after my father's death that I got sober, and this is going on. So dealing with that, I needed somebody to talk with. And Jack and my father went back from the beginning. They joined AA about the same time, and so it was somebody that I was able to really feel comfortable with. My first fourth step completed. It was just almost a year in, and I was going on a retreat, and my sponsor was supposed to go. Actually, my first sponsor did not die. He's still alive. I fired him. We were supposed to get together at this retreat so I could do a fifth step. And he changed his retreat date to the week before, and didn't tell me, and so he was getting hair plugs the weekend. So oh, what's more important, your hair or so no. So anyway, so what I did is at that retreat, I went with a priest, and I sat down with this priest, and I did this non-alcoholic, and did it. There was an alcoholic priest there too, which I could have done, but I did it with this, and it was good. I just told him, he was understanding, but not understanding, and he was kind and gracious, and but this is what the book tells me I'm supposed to be feeling, So I just pushed it aside, And a couple of weeks later, I was mentioning this, talking to a couple of people, and Jack grabbed me. He says, "No," he says, "I'm your sponsor, so we'll sit down, and I gave the same presentation basically that I gave to the priest, and it was so much more. So much that banter back and forth, that that identification, that just understanding and feeling the way I was feeling, and just that positive identification where the priest was positive, he was, but it was just not the same. And what they talk about, that relief, that that you get from a fifth step well done is there, and that's what they're talking about, And in that, I worked on, as it said, just this, that sixth and seventh step, or what, 2 paragraphs in the big book, But you know what? It's a lot more work than 2 paragraphs when you start putting it into action, when you're talking with somebody and going over yourself, and then looking at this inventory that I did with the eyes that I got from that, and looking at that 6th and 7th step was a new beginning in my life. And each step has, they're called steps for a reason, you know, and, and whether you're going up them or down them, there are steps, when I start slipping back, why? It's because I'm doing the steps in reverse, and, and I'm again getting close to being my own God, and, that's, so, it's, and then that, the eighth and ninth step and making amends, and amends aren't going to be saying I'm sorry. I had problems with taxes a number of years ago, many years ago. While I was still drinking. IRS didn't want to hear I'm sorry. They wanted me to send an amended 1040. Not a nice, I'm sorry. They wanted an amend. Amend this, change this, fix this, and that's what I need to do. It gets difficult, and even today, there's the ups and downs of life. I have a very good life, and I am happy, joyous, and free, and I have struggles. I'm married 31 years to a lovely woman that was also I met her in Alcoholics Anonymous, and she'll be coming up on years without a drink, and but we're struggling now. We're having difficulties, and it's it's real, but that doesn't mean that I still can't be happy, even with the sadness. I can find joy. If I didn't have struggles, how would I know when I'm having a good time? If I didn't have struggles, what would the purpose be? And I've got to know some difficult times to really enjoy the good times. And so I have to be grateful for the struggles that I'm presented, as long as I keep current in Alcoholics Anonymous and share them and be a member in good standing. And I have some friends from, I'm going on a road trip with this gray-haired guy over here, the day after Christmas, we're leaving for Brownsville, Texas, and Perry, Florida, So, and it's for an organization. He's a guy that does so much volunteer work. He was presented a game ball over at Grizzly Stadium this year for his volunteer efforts with the so this is something that that 12th step is practice these principles in all our affairs, and that is becoming a member of the community. That is, so it's not just an AA that I have to do this. I have to do it. So I'm a busy volunteer at times. I was blessed with a bad back that made me retire with a disability early. So I've been retired for it'll be 20 years in June. But I retired at 54 years old, and and some guys like him, he had to work till he was 69. Poor guy. But oh, it's time for me to shut up. It's telling me. So, and but anyway, this is it. I have to practice these principles in all my affairs. I have to bring this out of here. I have to bring what I learned here back home, and with my wife and all. And actually, this past week we've been doing better, because I think it's probably coming to an end. It's probably in the next couple of months we'll probably be making it a more permanent thing, and but that's life, and I can live, I can enjoy life, and so this thing is still ringing in my ears. It's so I think I should shut it up. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, and anyway, but I think somebody has to come up here and tell us how they got sober, you know. Right, we've got 3 birthdays in here, and we gotta leave enough time for them, so that's what I'm gonna do. I love you all. And may we all enjoy a lifetime of sobriety, one day at a time.